My mother didn't tell me to become an artist. My father didn't tell me to become an artist, Rosetta. They said they wanted me to run a grocery store. They wanted me to run work somewhere. You know, that you got to get a job, of course. You know, but not artist. You know, and I couldn't be. I didn't know what I else wanted to be. I couldn't be anything else. I couldn't be anything. I was thinking about it. So what else could I have been that I wanted to be? Well, I said, well, two things I would like to be, either a physicist, a musician, or a gardener.
Oh.
Or a cook, maybe. But even now, boy, maybe I could have been also a cook. You see.
Italo, I love the images that you have on these pieces and also on your paintings. They make me nostalgic for Italy and for the things that are familiar.
They're very Italian, aren't they?
Oh, the cypress trees.
Oh my God!
So much. Tell me a little bit more about that. About what inspires that and those images for you. And
no, that's a good. Well, the things I know how to do the best, maybe, you know, nature and the tree, the cypress, which is you know, here in the mountains, because I tell you, Rosetta, see, there's always a window here.
Yes, yeah.
That's sometimes to do with my window from my bedroom.
Oh.
I saw the mountains out there.
Oh, when you were young growing up?
I was young growing up, and I looked at the window, and I always see this stuff in here that I keep repeating it, you see. And so it's sort of interesting in a way. The memories, as I said again, the fire in the fireplace and the ceramics that we had in the kitchen. Boccale. See, that's the things, and abstractions, for example. And sometimes you notice it's nothing in the center, everything is in the periphery. It's either up here or on the side sometimes. Just like flashback in a movie. When you see a movie, for example, you see a lot of flashbacks, what happened in the past. Same thing with Miami, sometimes it's flashbacks. You see.
Of growing up and of your life in Italy.
But I have to invent them. You see, I have to think about it, I have to invent them. And you have to be careful. You don't want to make it too sentimental. You have to be very careful when you do that kind of stuff. Otherwise, things happen to a lot of people, you know. I mean, you just have to distill it. You have to speculate and see if there's any possibility of using those things.
You were a beautiful spirit, Italo. Strong, enabling, father to 5, grandfather to the same number, companion to Sumeyu. You always gave more than we ever could imagine. A consummate artist, you with 1 foot anchored in the old world peasant stock of saints and fables, mountains and deeply severe country people dressed in black, suspicious Madonnas and a glinting cross hanging like a wicked blade or a lynched man around the neck and against the dark backdrop of a tunic robe worn by a humble priest in your village of Lego, Cosenza, Calabria, Italy, where bony dogs and fear of fear itself were rooted in the soil, where you were born and the new one here, of flash and laid back but cutting edge show and tell new money by the Pacific, new age scientists and engineers who wave checkbooks with no limits sitting under fragrant eucalyptus trees on the campus of UCSD in La Jolla, California, America, where you begin to tangle up everything inside rich profusions, Christ and Pythagoras, trombones and tree trunks, seashells and garish figurines, trinkets you attach to freestanding assemblages, and meta this and meta that, meta, laughter and joy and what you did inside, transmogrified within the kill of your creative imagination. A thing to behold. It expressed itself in a celebration of strong primary colors, deep luminous blues, canary yellows, sunset red oranges, incredible globes, blood red and stunning as though splotched and grown all over the earth.
This is one here, of course. And again, same typical me. Like you have the abstraction here, you have the tree, the landscape, the ceramic, the Greek architecture here, and the ceramics and the figure, another tree here again. Trying to combine all those elements: nature, figure, architecture, ceramics. See, spots, colors. Lots of activities, lots of energy, a lot of contradictions. That's typical me, what I was trying to say before. I didn't mean to say a little bit, a lot of contradiction in my work. See, typical me. See, the low, the high, the middle.
A visual poetry for all to see, stroked and fashioned in bold metaphors. Your zany imagination touched any and everything commonplace you sought out and found at flea markets, swamp meets, which you scavenged on weekend mornings like an archaeologist excavating for sacred objects, which you were. You looked for saws, washboards, old beat-up violins, tubas, anything thrown away like an old school globe of the world, transformed in your hands into a head, or the belly of a stick figure striding through a world where animals are endangered, as great music, poetry, or art, a gaunt dog on patrol looking for food inside the hallucinogenic nature of our world, our fears, all these things, imagined or real, served as grist for the meal in your magical sleight of hand tricks. Now you see it, now it's not what you thought you saw, for us to move through, made over by your shamanistic, transforming elan, visions of both old and new worlds.
I don't even know what the heck it is. Some image about a gardener here. It's 19th century. These are very sentimental images. Look, what is it? What are they doing? Helping out.
They're, it looks like they're farmers.
They're farmers? See?
Working around. Dead leaves. It's called dead leaves.
Is that what it's called? Yeah, dead leaves. I mean, this stuff you find anywhere that people really doesn't pay attention to much anymore. And I like the way it looks. I even like the paper, the fading on the paper. And then you put another image which has nothing to do with it whatsoever. Totally a contradiction. And you smear it on the way they do it on a press. Then you have this image. You see, I could have retouched this if I wanted to, but I want to leave that line. I want to be that specific there, so the cover would show the stamps here, the fading of the paper here. See, they're not very, people. Sometimes you think how people see these things. Well, this is not very popular. People don't. It's hard to understand it. I
want
think.
people to see it.
Exactly. See, well, I want people just to respond to it. Some people just. It takes time. It takes. Time, and you have to be really totally open to certain things, and to people this would be frustrating. It is frustrating. I do like the idea of frustration.
What color is frustration?
I don't know. That's a good one. What color? I don't know. Yellow ochre.
Yellow.
Yeah, yellow ochre. Yeah.
Through cubism and folk influences, meta this, meta that, meta, a mode of expression, a kind of transformative rhythm you struck in the way a figure stood, the angle of sculptural language that evoked myth and legend collaged into pictures, standing next to cypress trees, their slender branches and leaves flaring like a butane lighter flame shooting skyward next to a skull. old world drinking jugs made of clay, pottery and ceramics, an old house hovering above chickens glazed in glass, a shoe, a surreal face, and a violin so we wouldn't forget music. You made paintings within paintings, squared off other worlds, bursting with a profusion of colorful dots that exploded into the viewer's vision like the Big Bang of the universe, shooting meteors like a swarm of shotgun pellets. And your studio was a place in and of itself, unique, unbelievable, what you crammed into that space that used to be an old auto shop. Endless cages filled with mad singing birds, taxidermy, old religious relics, all manner of tools and discarded objects you had picked up, stored for later use in your art, which you sometimes hated to sell, so it was crammed there too, along with books and your music, which you listened to every morning, operas, arias, sonatas, and that fragrant smell of fruit trees outside in your yard, and all those jars of different olives in your kitchen, with you there stirring the pots like a mad scientist. You were the real deal walking upright on earth, Italo, who didn't check your feelings at whatever door you walked through. And now we all have to deal with the horrible news that you won't be walking through our doors again in the flesh, though your spirit will always remain with us.
This is a very good piece.
That's wonderful.
My friend, the Italian friend, Alessandro, loved it. He said it's so irrational, kind of thing. So it'll be like that. I'm not sure about if I apply more pigment on it, but that's the concept in here. I don't know if I could. It doesn't have any. You really can't explain it. You can't verbalize it. Sometimes there's certain things you can't simply verbalize what they mean. All right, now, see, this is, so I'm going to put a little bit more on this. We'll do spatter like that sometimes, see. So I like the idea of the dripping in here. Maybe, see, I like it real thick, like, so it drips down, see, like this. That's what I had in mind. Real gooky, real kind of, not about paint. It's about kind of it's about color, but it's color that really doesn't related to the work. Sort of very, very expressive, very sloppy, see? So, kind of blue skin, blue armor. Look at that. I told David, I said, leave the stuff on it, don't mix it, don't take the impurities out of the paint. Yeah.
That gives me a feeling of irrationality, but also one of being trapped. Is that what?
Yeah, sort of being trapped and being sort of awkward. And look, everything's really wrong. Like the arms are wrong in here. It seems to be, it's sort of a neutral, sort of a really gender, sexless, you know, it doesn't, it's a weird thing, so that's what I was trying to do, emphasize that more, instead of make it better. Maybe I make it worse. Perhaps, I don't know. So it's really hard, sometimes it's very hard to verbalize it. Well, I had this in mind for years to do it, Rosetta. I bought this and I knew I was going to do it the day that I bought them. It's been now 6 years. And I says, I could never had enough, I don't know if a courage or what it is to just put it together. The other day I said, David, let's try this. I said, David, my helper, I said, let's do it. And he said, sure, let's put it together. She said, if you can put a screw from the bottom, and then we fabricated this structure here, so it really holds it up together very well. Something, again, the opposite, a contrast, that's very, very awkward, very primitive, and very folksy, to this sort of very mechanical thing in the back, that duality about the work again, and this very crazy robe. I had it for years, this robe. I said, I could never be able to use it, and I finally came to the conclusion to use it. So all these things come together, like you set them up, you wait, you know, when the time comes, then you use those objects that accumulate. Sometimes I just, you know, don't use it, but I wanted to do this for the beginning, or the day that I purchased the pieces here. It's hard to decide when it's finished. The hardest thing to do.
How do you know when it's finished?
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know when it's finished. Exactly the same thing. Students have a hell of a time know when it's finished. And when you start, they don't know when it's finished. Nobody really knows when it's finished. It's up to me to decide when it's finished. See, that's the trouble. That's the thing with art. There's not really any scientific steps you could go from one next to the other. You just have to do it by intuition and by feeling. Maybe it works. Not too much. Okay, that's enough. When I ended the class here at UCSD, I said, you know, there's so much strife between religion. You know, this. I told you that story about religion, about the Protestants and the Roman Catholics during the Renaissance with Martin Luther, and the Muslims and with the Christians. There's so much strife. I said, it's so bad. In other words, and I said, and then I was flashing back myself to the 16th century, and I said, well, the really heroes, I said, they weren't really those people who fought the ideologies. They were the artists. I said, Bernini, I said, look at the things he built. Look at this incredible architecture. He's the hero. You see, I said, look at the Carracci and the beautiful painting, you know. And others. I said, anyway, and Guido Reni, and I mentioned some of the artists that I like so much, and he said, they were the true artists. You see, under the strifeful thing, they came through. They made those beautiful objects for us to really look at and enjoy. They became immortal, and everybody started to clap. They thought they liked it. I made the artist the hero. You have to have a lot of courage, you know, to change it, to move it, see, and simplify it, put more on it, add, subtract. Those are the decisions, and it becomes very formal. That's the formal elements of art. You need more red, more blue. How do you make the composition? What kind of texture? What kind of scale? How high? Should be human height, architectural height. Those are things you think about sometimes all the time. You have to go beyond the idea that's a tree, it's a figure, it's about eyes, it's about cold, perhaps, you know. And you look at the pigment, the way it's painted, the lines, the black lines and the red. And if you want to, you see, you can't be lazy. If you don't want to, you just bypass it. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about visual arts. You see, you can just bypass it if you don't like it, if it doesn't affect you. If it moves, it's got to move you. If it doesn't move you, then it doesn't have an impact.